The Little Chief Smoker. What is this good for? What can we do with it? How much does it cost? Where do we find them? Let's get into that today.
I think it's even better than before, you know?
Yeah, I wonder what Great Dane tastes like, man. Wow, man. That's some heavy shit, man.
So you want to make a smoky whiskey. You enjoy Isla. You enjoy some of those deep, dark, grungy whiskeys. How can we, as a home distiller, make that kind of whiskey? It's very, very simple. You could use peat. You could go ahead and malt your own grains and dry those grains out with peat and get that peaty Scotch flavor. Or you could simply take your grains after they've been malted, after they've been dried and cured, take them to whatever level of malting you want. That's not important for this right here. You could go to a caramel, you could go to a dark or a black, and then you're going to run them in this smoker. What that's going to do is it's going to impart all that smoky oil. And we talked in the last Smoking Grains video about the need to get that oil down in the cracks and crevices of those grains so that it does impart into the mash. I will tell you that for beer, you don't want to go real heavy on your smoke, right? But with a whiskey, you've got to put a lot of smoke in there, because as you mash and ferment and then distill, it's going to strip a lot of that out. So you want to go really heavy, really dark when you're going in for distilling. So let's get into what the smoky whiskey is. You'll notice behind us, everything that I put up here on the bench, these are all smoky whiskeys, right? We have a Bunnahabhain. It's an Isla. It's not as smoky as, let's say, a Laphroaig. And Laphroaig quarter cask is really smoky. These are Scotches, so they're going to have that peat smoke, that deep, briny, banditti, iodine smoke flavor to them. If you look at a Dalmore, it's a Highland, but it is a little smoky. They're a little different in flavor. All of these are going to have peat to them. You look over here at a Balcones Brimstone. This is smoked with Texas scrub oak. And I have a few others that are smoky as well. But a Texas scrub oak smoked, it's pot distilled. They literally took their grains and they smoked those with a Texas scrub oak. I have a Saddle Iron. This is mine. It's a cinnamon type whiskey, but it's been smoked. It's a mesquite smoked grain prior to going in and finishing off and putting a cinnamon character to the whiskey itself. So I guess this is really my version of a cinnamon whiskey, but it's a mesquite smoked whiskey. So you'll notice I'm going to change these bottles out as we're doing things today, and we're talking about smoky whiskeys. How could you get a Laphroaig? Could you get a Laphroaig? You're not going to ever get something that tastes just like this bottle of Laphroaig. You're not. This bottle has been blended. It's made with, comes out of multiple different casks, multiple different pounds and pounds of grain. But can we get something that's a character of that to us has the smoky character, has the oily characters that we're looking for? Well, sure you can. So the same thing with a Brimstone, Texas scrub oak. Okay, they're going to use a barley, they're going to use a corn, and they're probably going to have a little rye in here, and then they're going to smoke those, and then they're going to pot distill them, which means you're going to pull the oils and the fusel oils and the character of all of those grains that are going to come through. Can you make this right here? You couldn't make it taste exactly like it, because their barrels are different, their timing is different, the types of grains, all of that, the way that they blend that together to come up with this bottle so that every bottle of Brimstone always tastes the same. It's a roasted blue corn. You could get a lot of blue corn and you could do that, but you're never going to get to that level. What you should have strived for is to get to a level that is good for you. They use a blue corn. We know they have a barley in it. We know they're smoking those grains in that corn with a Texas scrub oak. So we can mock that up, especially with a small system like this. We can mock that up, do a small batch, get a taste of it. I like this batch. The next batch maybe didn't taste as good, but you get a few barrels and then blend those together. Find you that blend that is unique to you. It is your whiskey. It's not Brimstone by Balcones, right? This is your whiskey. So, that being said, these are $50 bottles of whiskey. Can yours be as good as a $50 bottle of whiskey? Man, it can. That's you. You put your own value into what you build and how you put it together, the grain bill, the smoking characteristics, the aging techniques that you're going to use. Maybe you put some in a French oak. Maybe you have some in the white oak. Maybe they're brand new oak barrels instead of used oak barrels, which, a Scotch is a used, right? They're used bourbon barrels. But all in all, you can do this and mock that up just like I did here. And this is mine. That's a Mesquite and pecan smoked whiskey. So I tend to like those flavors, and I work them in a way to where they fit my taste palette. And friends of mine have tried them and they're like, wow, man, that's really good. Well, it is, because I'm a small craft home distiller. I can take the time in small barrels. I can take the time with small batch to really process something, get everything out the way that I want it. So let's dig in. We're going to talk about the Little Chief. I've got the trays done. They're inside. We're going to go into what these pellets are, where you can get them, and the different types of wood pellets that you can buy. The Mesquite smoke pellet you can get these in apple, you can get them in oak, you can get them in maple. There's a myriad of different types of pellets that you can get. Each one is going to impart something different. The flavor of your grain is going to depict what you want to use, right? So if you have more of a citrusy grain that lends itself to that citrusy, more soured flavor, you probably want to character that or augment that flavor with something that's a little more sweet. So in that case, maybe you'd use an apple, or maybe you would use a maple to give it that sweet to the sour. And I say sour and sweet. We're not talking about a bowl of cereal. So we're talking about subtle characteristics or hints of that sourness, hints of the sweet flavor, right? Whenever we're talking about grains, we're talking about, especially in distilling, it's subtle characters, a character of flavor. What you're looking for in a spirit is to pick those subtle characters up as you hit the palate, as it progresses through the palate, as it comes down the side of the palate in the back, the after character or the after flavor. That's what we're going for. When you really want to make unique whiskeys, you're trying to get all of those different areas of the tongue, the different taste bud areas and zones, and you want to key in on those with your whiskey. You don't want something that when you taste it, it tastes the same on the tip of your tongue all the way to when you're done and breathed out. There's no difference. It's just flat. That doesn't really make for a good whiskey. That makes for a $20 gallon plastic bottle of whiskey, but that's not what we as home distillers want, right? Let's look at the pellets. They're little. They're just small wood pulp that has been put into a pellet. To me, they look like rabbit food. I've got the grains from our last series we did. We have the Khorasan, we have the red wheat, we have the emmer, and we have the einkorn. I want to set that up for you and show you how each one of those would take smoke. Remember, we did a pound each. Do we want to use mesquite on all of them? Or do I want to go ahead and get like for a Khorasan that's buttery, do we want to put some apple or maybe pecan on that? My thoughts would be, if I took Khorasan that's buttery and biscuity flavored and a little caramel to it, and I added a pecan, I could probably push that whiskey, if I did that as a single malt, I could push that whiskey into a pecan pie. That would be really cool, right? Remember what I told you, as a home distiller, the world is open to us. We can do whatever we want. We're not bound by legalities and rules and you have to have so much of a certain product. We can do whatever we want to make something uniquely ours. I'll never not buy commercial whiskey. I'm not one of those condescending people to say mine's better. I don't, once I started making whiskey, I don't buy whiskey from the store anymore. That's just a falsehood. I would lend to say, and there's going to be a lot of my viewers and a lot of viewers that see that and think, well, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. I would lend that to say that's a fool's road, because you will never know what you want to get to. Each one of these is a different character and a different flavor. How would you ever know that those flavors are out there if you didn't try that whiskey and try to mock that up, right? You say, I make clear moonshine, I make the best, I don't ever buy commercial. That's a fool's road, man. Don't go down that game of thinking that yours is the best in the world, because I'm sorry, it's not. We cannot get to the level of a 40-year-old whiskey. We just can't. We can on small batch, and you leave it for 40 years, but who wants to do that? So I told you a while ago when we were talking, I said I had another brand. This is Andalusia Whiskey Company. They make a product called Striker. Now, this is mesquite smoked. They use they smoke the malt, right? They malt the grains, and then he smokes that malt with a mesquite smoke, and that is a 2-year-old whiskey. You've seen this before. I've had this in a glass. This is one of my favorites. I will say, this is 50%, so it's right at 100 proof. The Balcones, look at the depth and the darkness of that. I mean, that's a 2-year-old whiskey, and it's so dark. This stuff, when you pop the top on this, it fills the room with flavor and aroma. This stuff comes in right about 53%. So, I mean, you're talking about 106 proof. I have some more that, from Garrison Brothers, that is their Cowboy that's 143 proof whiskey, right out of the bottle. And it's got that smoky character as well. So can we do that? We can get close. We can add our own character and our own nuances and own essences to it that makes it uniquely ours. That's the key to it. So we've got the Pellet Smoke Tube. Again, this is sold by LIZZQ. I'll post the Amazon links down in the description for every bit of this stuff. But these are like $7 to $11 on Amazon. The Little Chief Smoker is a company called SmokeHouse Products. Their website is smokehouseproducts.com. They're made in Hood River, Oregon. So this is an American company made by a family. It's a family-oriented business. I have not seen any faults in this system so far, and I've got this one and one other. I've used them. I've used it, and it's just fabulous. You can find this brand new off of the Smokehouse Products website. It's smokehouseproducts.com. You can find these brand new for anywhere between $110 to maybe $130. I've seen they have a Big Chief that's a little wider and a little taller that's up $150, $160. The Little Chief does just fine if you're doing small batch. You can find them used on Amazon. You can find them used on eBay for $30 to $60. I mean, man, if you're wanting to get into it, you want to try it out, you don't know whether it's a game you're going to get into and you're going to stay with, spending $30 or $60 on a used one, use it a couple of times and it's paid for itself. What is the pellet smoker? We're going to start with that. This pellet smoke tube, these things are $7 to $11 on Amazon. This one in particular, it was sold by a company called LIZZQ. I'm not sponsored by them. I'm not doing any endorsements. It's just the one that I found on Amazon when I was looking them up, right? I have 2 of these outside that I use, and they work very well. Again, LIZZQ products, you look them up. It's got the instructions written on the back on how to use it. They're very simple. You literally take your pellets, you hold the tube up, you fill it. You'll notice there's a strip on the bottom. This is literally the bottom. You fill it up to about a little over 3/4, and then you're going to lay it down. Now they're going to roll out. You light one end, and these pellets will literally just smoke all the way through to the opposite side. They impart a lot of smoke in a 5 to 6 hour period. The Little Chief comes with a tray for the bottom, of course, a drip tray. because, you know, it's used for more than just grains and things like that. It's used for whatever you want to. It comes with 4 racks, and Tyler and the guys sent me 4 screens because I'm doing grains. Obviously, they would fall through. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to take these small screens and we're going to end up going on the edge of them here, and we'll put some twisties around the rack just so that we know they're solid, they're not going to move. But let's take a look. So the Little Chief is literally an aluminum stamped box. It's ingenious by design. It's very, very simple. You know, it's held together on each one of the corners. It's got a top that comes on. When you order this, it's going to come pre-built, right? You're not going to have to put it together or anything like that. So the lid literally just comes off. There's a swing door. What the swing door is for is inside there's a 200 watt little burner, and on the back you'll see there's no switch, so it's a plug in and turn on and that's it. But the small burner, you put your smoke tray there, you put your chips in it, and then you put your drip tray over the top. You'll notice there's a set of pre-built. They've got the little rack slides pre-built in there. Typically the drip tray will go on the bottom, and if you're doing something like a fish or a chicken or, you know, whatever that's going to drip, you'll put that on the bottom, and you'll run your small smoke canister down on right on top. It just literally sits right on top of the burner. Put your chips in, your chunks, your cubes, and plug this thing in and let it go. Let's look at what we've got. I went ahead and took the racks. I've got the small screens on there. They come with the Little Chief when you buy them. You get the rack itself, and then they send the screen. You can use them with the screen up or with the screen down. My personal preference, so this is Kevin talking, I put it with the screen down, and I do that for a reason, so that when I go ahead and lay my grains in, I've got this little edge right here along this edge, and the parts of the rack are going to help keep the grains stay. They're not, if I lay it this way, they tend to want to move and slide. My experience with this is you're not going to get a full pound on here. You're going to get about a half a pound on each one of these screens. Remember, when we're smoking grains, we want everything to have that deep dark smoke and the oily residue on the grains themselves. The thinner and more uniform you can make it when you spray it down, the better your product is going to be. So we've got the little pellet smoker. Again, this thing is $7 to $11. I would tell you, if you're looking at wanting to do jerky, you're wanting to do fish, chicken, things like that, man, you could do your grains. You could also do food in here, no problem, without a doubt. I wouldn't necessarily say go do a bunch of chicken or do a bunch of jerky, or, you know, put some fish in here and then not clean it and go back and do some grains that you're going to do for whiskey, because you might not like a fishy whiskey. I think Jesse on Stillet had one that was a fishy whiskey, and it wasn't very good. So look, remember to clean your products, clean your equipment, keep it clean every time you use it. It's just going to, not only is it going to make your grains taste better and your whiskey taste better, it's going to make your equipment last longer. My gut tells me that we're going to get maybe half a pound per tray, and so, you know, maybe we'll do one run on Mesquite and I'll do another run on apple. Now I got a big old mess I got to clean up, but you know, it is what it is. This is the bench. That's what it's for, right? I don't know. Did you notice my new bench? I put a short out on building this, and it was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun building it, and you know, I do this for you guys, so it gives us a new look, just kind of a new style. I had fun doing it. I literally did this with scrap wood, and put it together with some scrap wood I had in the garage. So, I thought it would be interesting to just kind of go into it today and see what you think. I'm continually changing and adding to bench. I try to put new stuff up for you guys. The addition of my shelves right here is something that I think I'm going to put different whiskeys up here. I may put different grains if we're talking about a certain grain. I like to have it set so that I can show you different whiskeys and different styles of spirits. This is what I drink. Don't hide what I drink. I enjoy these different whiskeys. I savor them, and I look at each one and try to break it down in my mind as to what's in that bottle. How can I make that, or how can I augment something that I already have to give it that flavor? I mean, it could be as simple as smoke essence that you're going to add to a whiskey that you already have to give it that smoky character, a liquid smoke, so to speak. It's not as good. I'll tell you that right away. It's not as good trying to use those. This is the best way to do it. You start from the ground up. So let's do a real quick close-up. I'll show you. You can see the burner right here. Let me spin this around. So, you know, that's basically a typical computer outlet. It doesn't have any kind of controls. Now, if you look, these units come in different levels. They have one sticker for everything. I mean, it's a family-owned company, so understand that they're not going to spend a lot of money on stickers. But, you know, this is the Little Chief model front load. And so it's telling us that it's 120 volt, 250 watt heating element, right? You can see there's a Little Chief 2 that is, these are a little bigger. They run a lot higher heat. See, so the Little Chief 2 is a bigger unit. It runs 1,000 watt heating element. They have a Big Chief 2 as well that runs a 450. The regular Big Chief runs a 450, a top load. They have different models for different things. I would say if you're looking in the market, look for these two here. Either the Little Chief, Mini Chief, right? The Mini Chief is really, really small. It's got 2 shelves in it. I wouldn't even bother with it. But what I would look at is, I would look at the front load. It's just so much easier to use on a Little Chief. Or look at the front load on a Big Chief. I'm not being paid by these guys. I have no, you know, I'm not being endorsed or anything. I like the product. And so I'm willing to put my name behind the product. I think it's really, really good. I'm going to get you a close-up of what these pellets look like. You know, to me, they look like rabbit food. But they're literally just pieces of wood that they've mulched and turned into a small smoking pellet. You can find these things anywhere, Academy stores, things like that. Even your grocery stores will sell them. This is actually from SmokeHouse products, and this is the Mesquite pellet. I would look at a brand, you know, any of the major brands. You're going to get a good natural hardwood. You're going to get a good flavored smoke. I'm going to show you the level. You look down in there, you can see where I put it to. About an inch from the top. When you lay it over it, they're going to want to spill. So you just want to, you know, about an inch from the top, go ahead and fill them in. I will tell you, loading your grains, loading these pellets, none of this is clean. You're going to make a mess. So don't fret it. Don't fret the small stuff. This is all supposed to be fun. It's a hobby, right? So we're wanting to enjoy ourselves, and don't get frustrated over the small stuff. No big deal. It all cleans up. Okay, so we were loaded, and you'll notice, yeah, they spilt towards the front. That's perfect because you're going to want to get in there maybe with a little torch or something to get them going. But we've got it laid in on the drip tray. So what's going to happen, it's going to start burning from this end, and it'll just literally smolder its way all the way to the back of this. It'll take about 5 to 6 hours. I will tell you that based on the amount of grains that we have in here, you know, we've got 4 trays and the smoke tube. We'll probably, about halfway through, I could probably pull these grains, depending on how much smoke depth or character they've taken. If they're sticky, then I could probably go ahead and pull them out and put on the remaining grains. But you know, you're going to get half a pound, maybe 2/3 of a pound on a tray. You could probably get that full pound on there, and you know, there's still some room. I could probably heap up a full pound on each one of these, and it would work. But you know, I look at quality over quantity. I want the quality of that grain when it comes out to be perfect. So anyway, just wanted to show you that. What we'll do, we'll cut back to, you know, getting it set and getting it ready, and I'll move it outside and we'll get it going. I'm going to go through and show you, this is our Coruscant. I'm going to go through and show you, we've got them all set up here. Okay, and if you remember, we did 4 different types. This is our einkorn. And you remember, I told you einkorn was so small. Well, it's so small that it falls through those little holes right there. That's a little bitty tiny grain, man. It has a problem staying in there. It makes a mess, but it's all right. It'll come out. So, and then we've got our emmer. Now remember, ember's a very red color as compared to some of the other grains. I mean, you can see the difference between these two. That's einkorn, emmer, and then we have Coruscant. So our Coruscant, I got about a little over a half, but not less, a little less than 2/3. This is our red spring wheat. I've got that on there, and you notice these aren't a big pile of grain. If you look down, they're pretty level. So the goal to that is we want to permeate each one of these grains with smoke. I don't want to have a big pile impeding the smoke going through. And I'll wet them down. We'll spritz them. We'll wet them down, and we'll make sure there's some little peaks and valleys. So you just see me kind of going with my fingers. Make sure you got some little peaks and valleys. And it's going to be the same whether you're going to roast it or whether you're going to smoke it. If you're doing this in the oven, you want to do the same exact thing. You want to make sure you got peaks and valleys in there. So this is basically what you're looking at when you put them in the grill. We want them to look pretty much like that. So what we're going to do, I've already got everything placed. I've already done 1 spritz on the grain, so I'm going to go ahead and do a second. I'll do a second spritz. I had them out and went ahead and got them really good and wet. We'll do a second spray. When we did the last set of grains, I showed you that we wanted these grains to be wet when you moved them over. You don't want to see any dry areas. You want them to be moist, and that way that smoke is going to adhere and really stick to the edges of the grains all the way around. So again, I've already got them once. We're just going to do one more little spritz. I think we're good. And then what we'll do, I'm going to use a torch. You could pretty much use whatever you want to get it lit. I'm going to use a torch, and we're just going to get the end of this thing going, and they'll stay smoking by themselves. You can pretty much shut it down right there and let it go. If they don't stay smoking by themselves, you're going to have to go in and keep at it till you do see smoke coming in. Right now they're smoking pretty light. I'm going to add a little bit of heat to it. Once you know you've got a good little heat going on one end, you can turn it off, blow it out, just let it smolder. This is a 6-hour process. This thing will take anywhere between 5 to 6 hours to complete the full smoke cycle. You can already see we're getting a good level of smoke coming up in here. All we're going to do now is put the lid on it and just let it do its thing. It's a hurry up and wait at this point. We'll wait till it burns about halfway down. We'll come out and check our grains at that point. I think at that point, because we only have 2/3 of a pound, I don't have a lot in here. I think about halfway through this pellet smoker is going to it's going to be done. This one smoker I'll run on the big smoker, the big smoke unit, and 6 hours I've got a lot of smoke going in there. There's times that I don't want to run the large smoker at the bottom. I'll just throw the pellet smoker in and the pellet tube and let it do its thing. So I think we're pretty good, but we'll let it do its thing. We'll check on it every 30 minutes to an hour, and we'll see how we're doing. Until then, we'll be back. I want you to see the level of smoke we've already gotten. We're about halfway done. You can see where the smoke's at. It's coming up right about the middle of our pellet tube. But I want you to look at the color. See the color that's coming off of these grains? I mean, we're seeing a huge difference in color. This is the Coruscant. You remember how yellow Coruscant was? And if we look from the bottom, you can see it's picking up that red oil really well. The red wheat has really picked up a lot, so it's doing very well. I'm going to go ahead and leave it on the full duration, but we have already, I could pull this off right now and it would make an extremely smoky beer, and it's going to make a moderately smoky whiskey, just by what I see. But this has been, I think we're going on maybe 3 hours now. So you can see in 3 hours time it's burned about half down. It's probably about 2.5 hours left, I'd say, but just the level of smoke that is coming off of this little Chief system is just phenomenal. It's a perfect unit for you guys that are wanting to get into this and try it and not have to spend a whole lot of money to try to figure out, do I want to do this or do I not? It's perfect. Okay guys, well, here we are. We've got all 4 of these out of the smoker. I put a little pile of each one pre-smoked by each set, just so you could kind of see the before and after. But let's take a look. Let's start with our einkorn, and you can see, look at the color. That's our before. That's our after. So you can see the color differences of the einkorn, what it looks like after a really good smoke. It picked up a lot of color, and we'll see if we can get in real close. You can see the some of the shininess of the grain, and just the depth of smoke that it picked up. Here's our emmer, and if you look, here's our color differences. Remember, emmer was an off color to begin with, but look at the red, the deep red and the shininess that's on that emmer grain. Here's our Corsan. Corsan still stays a little blonde, but if you look at the original, you know, there's a big difference between the two. And you'll notice that there are some areas of the Corsan wheat that really picked up some of that that deep smoke. You can see how it got down into some of the little cuts and crevices. In the very last one, which I ran a little longer, it was on the lower section, and I did that for a reason, because it needs more flavor enhancement than any of the other, is the spring wheat. So specifically the hard red spring wheat, you can see what it looked like at its malted stage, and this is what we come out to on the smoke stage. That black is what was on the bottom. That's not burn, that's literally smoke. So when you blend all these together, you're going to get different characteristics and different smells. I can already smell a difference between each one, and I can taste a difference between each one. So just to give you an idea, I mean, that's what we're going for. In this step, if I'm going to take all 4 of these and run these as an adjunct with just a plain Pilsner or maybe a barley, you know, a Vienna, something like that, and add this wheat to it for enhancement, it's going to smooth that out, but it's also going to add that smoky characteristic. I'm really intrigued by the red spring wheat. It came out fabulous. I can tell you that the Corsan is just going to be outstanding. It has a real smoky, buttery flavor, almost reminiscent of heating up buns on a barbecue pit. It's pretty cool. So just to show you these differences, wanted to get that in as the last piece of this. So there's our grains. The smoking's done, and I hope you enjoyed watching it. This was really fun to do. Well, that's a wrap, guys. I really hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you liked what you saw, hit that like and subscribe. Man, it does wonders for the channel. If you didn't like it, you know, hit the dislike. Leave me a comment. Let me know. That's the only way I know whether what I'm putting out is what you guys want to see or don't want to see. So all comments, all likes and dislikes, they're welcome. I will answer any comment, every comment. So again, thanks for watching. I know this one went a little bit long, but man, I was having so much fun. There's so much to this, and I want everybody to know that, you know, it's not hard. You can do this. You can make smoky whiskeys. You can make specialty whiskeys that suit your palate. Just takes a little time and a little knowledge. So get on out there and have some fun, and just keep on creating. Until next time, thanks for watching.